Well, I'm Fred Lonberg-Holm, and I play the cello and live in Chicago, and play mostly amplified cello in groups that range from singer-songwriter pop type things to pretty much all-out mayhem, free improvised noise things, and a lot of jazz-based improvising also. So, like, the primary piece of gear for any cellist is the cello itself. This particular cello that I've been using for the last number of years is, unlike most cellos, instead of being made of wood, it's made out of carbon fiber, which is kind of like fiberglass, only stronger and denser and more vibrational. Really the only things that are wood on this cello at this point are the tailpiece and the bridge, and there's a sound post inside. But otherwise, it emulates the traditional wooden cello very closely. It has the same interior structure. If you had X-ray vision, you could see there's what they call a bass bar that runs along here, and then the sound post goes to the back. And sort of the theory of bowed string instruments of this sort of type, this European-based, is that the strings vibrate and the vibrations pass through the bridge to the body of the instrument. But it's a little bit more elaborate than that, because the leg, the bass leg, on the lower string, then is conducted vibrationally through the top through what they call the bass bar. And then the treble string and the treble side of the bridge has the post that goes to the back. And so actually there's this sort of duality of vibrations between the front and the back going on that's conducted through that bar and through the post. And that's a little bit boring, maybe, but it ends up resulting in a pretty radical difference in the sound if you didn't have those. For instance, like the bracing on an acoustic guitar is entirely different, and as a result, even if you bowed you put cello strings on a guitar and you bowed it, it wouldn't sound anything like a cello.
What would it sound like?
It would sound like a guitar with a bow and cello strings. I don't know. I mean, everything sounds great. There's definitely no shortage. You know, if you want to, like, I mean, I like all kinds of stringed instruments. You know, I don't have any bias towards or against any particular kind of instrument, but I kind of grew up playing the cello, and even though for a while I quit altogether playing the cello and tried to be an electric bass player and a synthesizer player, I ended up coming home, so to speak, to the thing that I'd kind of done since I was pretty little, and did well enough that I could sort of forget what I was doing. That technique isn't really an issue. In fact, if anything, I tried for a long time to get rid of all the technique that I might have acquired when I was younger, and instead can focus more on just being involved in the music.
So what kind of, you have a very extensive background studying with different masters, so it's not like you're just saying, oh, I'm just going to mess around or whatever. You come from a really rigorous background as far as studying, right?
With a bunch of rigorous studies with a bunch of people who were messing around, yeah. I don't know. I mean, John Cage was always saying, I don't work, I play. And one thing he really liked about Morton Feldman, who I got to study with briefly, was that Feldman didn't know what he was doing, at least in the good old days. And Anthony Braxton might have a lot of complex structures in his mind, but really I think he's always looking for something that he doesn't really understand and trying to work with that and have fun with that. And so, yeah, I mean, if there's any discipline, it's the discipline of not being too disciplined. The definition of classical is kind of a complicated one to begin with. So I don't know contemporary classical, Renaissance, Baroque, that's, and then and that's a hillbilly music, I guess, but it's basically the same kind of thing, That's maybe harmonically the pitch vocabulary might be a little bit more somehow associated with classical music. but you know, it's still basically you're shortening and lengthening the strings with your fingers, and you're passing a friction device over the strings, which is the bow, and you know, and then how close to the bridge you are, and then you know, I mean, maybe a more polite, you know, kind of thing, and like. And then, you know, kind of thing like that. But you wouldn't necessarily, depending on what kind of music you're playing, you wouldn't necessarily have to do that kind of thing to be weird. You know, weird could just be that, you know, it's a G7 chord, let's say, you know, and you're playing a C sharp in the midst of it or something, you know, and it's not so much that, you know, you're making a scratchy sound or something. It's just odd harmonically in the context of the harmony, and so it's really more fluid state, I think, in terms of all the different things. You can definitely though see like that, you know, like the same kind of thing can be the exact same. You know, you can play. Something like that, you know, and that sounds very nice, and then if you do, you know, it's different than, you know, or something like that, and it's, you know, different, exactly the same at the same time, but it's a context-based thing.